My name is Alexis Davis. I'm the social media manager here at RSDSA. I'm joined by Jim Roach, Executive Vice President and Director of RSDSA, Beth Stillitano, and Leanne Cianfrini, PhD, who are tonight's guests. So I'm going to introduce both of them to you, and then we're going to jump into this engaging Facebook Live tonight. So Leanne was raised in Buffalo, New York, and completed her PhD in medical clinical psychology at the University of Alabama at Birmingham. Following a predoctoral internship and postdoctoral pain psychology fellowship at the University of Florida Health Sciences Center, Leanne returned to Birmingham, Alabama to work for the Doleys Clinic, a privately owned outpatient pain management clinic. Leanne has spoken extensively at national scientific conferences and regional workshops, is past president of the Southern Pain Society, and has been a lead author on a book and several book chapters about the role of psychology within pain management teams. Outside of work, Leanne enjoys exploring her new home in Canada, nature photography, the endless quest for the best pizza in the Lower Mainland, and knitting/crocheting. And of course, Dr. Cianfrini has been on one of our Facebook Lives before, so welcome back. We are excited and thankful to have you back. And then next, of course, we have Beth Stillitano, a CRPS fighter since 1996. She has dedicated her life to bringing attention to CRPS. She's executive director of Fight the Flame, a nonprofit established to raise awareness and educate medical professionals and the public about CRPS while providing resources to support the CRPS community. Beth facilitates a monthly CRPS support group and coordinates the annual Fight the Flame 5K and 1K family roll and stroll. She is happily married to her loving, supportive husband, Steve, and together they have raised two fabulous children, Alana and Landon. She currently resides in Charlotte, North Carolina with Steve and their two cats. And we may actually see one of the cats tonight. Hopefully we do. Now tonight, like I mentioned, we're going to have a short presentation and then we will open the floor up to questions. So if you have any questions on anything that these two ladies shared tonight, please put them in the chat. You can also send them to us in a message, and then I'm also checking the Facebook messages on our page if you don't want to publicly post your question, but we are going to make sure that we are discussing everything that you want to hear, or everything that you want to know, I should say, about managing pain flares. All right. But before we jump into that, Jim, do we have any announcements?
Yeah, thanks so much. And Leanne and Beth, thank you for coming here. You're both tremendous supporters of RSDSA. And we used to go down to Charlotte for the walk each year, and this it's so exciting that you're doing a conference again in Charlotte. So really excited about that. And we're going to have a link. I know you have a link. We're going to have a link too. But two quick things: that we're doing our 4th annual virtual walk in June. We're going to have a link to join us there. And if you can't do it in person, then do it in your home. And it's really a lot of fun. And live stream from all across the nation and hopefully the world. And secondly, we're collecting stories of remission from people with CRPS, and we're finding remission as absence of symptoms. And we really want to give hope for a lot of people who aren't there yet. And so we're excited about this presentation tonight because fighting flares is so difficult at times. So again, thanks Alexis, thanks Leanne, thanks Beth.
Yes. All righty. Well, Beth, I will let you kick it off with your presentation.
Great. Hi, everybody. We're going to be talking about fighting flares and living through it. As I was just introduced, I am Beth Stillitano, and I've been a CRPS fighter for 27 years. Fight the Flame came about from my family. When my son was 12 years old, he and some friends wanted to raise awareness for CRPS, and Fight the Flame was born. I'm very happy that I have all of my family and friends that are very supportive, and they help. I have a wonderful support system, and that also helps me get through. Tonight, we are all here together because we ourselves are either experiencing pain flares or a loved one of ours is having pain flares. Having pain, chronic pain, is nothing short of just agony. Nobody would ever wish that upon themselves or another person. Tonight, we're going to be talking about some tips on how to manage your pain. There are times throughout your life with CRPS that you will get a pain flare, which is an escalation of pain at some point. It is temporary when our pain flares up. We know that it will end. Most people with CRPS will experience this, while these pain flares are generally the result of your nervous system becoming either hypersensitive or hyperactive due to illness or the weather, barometric pressure, cold, heat, depression, if you're stressed, hypercusis, which is sensitivity to noise and sounds. There are all different types of reasons why you can go into flare up. So people with CRPS have all different types of pain, and unfortunately our arrows are always pointing up. But when it gets past the certain breakthrough, that's when we call it breakthrough pain, or that is where a flare up starts. Things that we have to remember about CRPS pain flares is that, first of all, they are temporary. The flare-ups can be random and occur sporadically. It could last any amount of time, minutes, hours, days, weeks, I hope not. But this doesn't mean that your CRPS is getting worse. It doesn't mean that it's spreading. A flare-up doesn't mean any more damage. We also have to remember that flare-ups are completely normal in the cycle of CRPS. This is a pain flare cycle. When your pain is at such a high level, it's hard to think about anything else but your pain. When we're in a pain flare, we're in pain, our bodies and muscles become tensed, movement then becomes reduced, we're agitated, depressed, or mad, and then that can cause turns into stress, and more stress equals more pain, and it's a continuous cycle. Unfortunately, it's vicious. When our pain becomes fierce, our heart rate begins to increase, and the stress hormone cortisol is activated and begins to rage through our bodies. This act alone, along with other raging hormones, is what worsens CRPS pain. Learning how to cope and withstand pain flares is a crucial component of your pain management program. We need to address these issues before they arrive. Things that we have to look into are calming your nervous system, interrupt thoughts of pain, and distraction. These things can help counterbalance your pain flares. No matter what type of pain flare you are having, the most important thing we need to do is calm our nervous system. When we're in flare-up, it's if our nervous system is a tornado, and we need to do whatever we can do to bring that wind speed down. That can be done through meditation, relaxation, positioning, and reframing, which we're going to talk about. The purpose of meditation for pain relief is that it helps slow our nervous system down. Meditation can help relax your mind, restore calmness to your body, and ease your pain. I know some of you are thinking they can't do it. They don't want to sit down. They don't want to go, well, that's not meditation. Meditation, the truth of it, it is hard. It takes practice, but it can be done, and it can be very helpful. The first thing that I would suggest, if you've never tried meditation, is just to sit quietly for a minute or two and just concentrate on your breathing. That's it. Just concentrate on breathing. Every couple of days or so, add a minute or two. After 3 or 4 weeks, you're going to find, I really hope, that meditation can be successful in helping you relax. Whether you are a beginner or a seasoned veteran, know that you need not go this alone. There are thousands of CDs and apps and podcasts that do guided meditation. Remember, it will take practice. I put some of my favorite ones up for you to see, and one of my favorite podcasts as well, but there are tons of them. Having someone help you through this process, especially in the beginning, gives you a place to start and aids your mind from as it tries to wander, which it will try to. I recommend bookmarking these sites so you don't have to frantically look for them when you are in pain. Relaxation. There's a reason we take warm baths in Epsom salt. The warm baths boost our blood circulation, which helps with our pain. And Epsom salt has two main ingredients. It has magnesium and sulfate, and both of those ingredients have shown to have beneficial effects with patients suffering from neuropathic pain. Magnesium helps our bodies by supporting our immune system, maintaining muscles and bones and nerve functioning, and regulates our heart rhythm. People with chronic pain have found that magnesium is helpful in relaxing muscles, calming their nerve receptors, and alleviating pain and inflammation. We talked about in the pain cycle that when we're in pain, our muscles seem to tense up. Helping our muscles relax is a very important thing. And a very easy exercise to do that is if you start at the bottom of your body, take your feet, and you clench up your feet as tight as you can for 5 seconds, tight, 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 and then let go. And then move up to your calves, tight, 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 and let that go. If you go through each of your muscles, you will be helping them calm down a little bit. Heat therapy can ease muscles, and it also helps reduce swelling. Using things like heating pads or instant hot hands, cozy blankets, or fuzzy socks, all of that is helpful. Aromatherapy. Studies have shown that aromatherapy can alleviate pain because it soothes your body and your mind. Aromatherapy activates your smell receptors and causes the nervous system to respond and release dopamine and serotonin, which are your happy hormones. And this can result in a decrease in pain. Scents like lavender, rosemary, peppermint, ginger are all well recommended, and you can achieve this as simple as lighting a scented candle. When we talk about interruptions of pain, we have several ways that we can go about doing this. One is through sensory memories, changing our scenery, reframing, and positioning. With sensory memory, really what we're trying to do is we want to interrupt what's happening now and get thinking of a wonderful place that we can remember. So think of a time or place where you felt happy or relaxed or secure. Maybe it's when you were a child and you were sitting in your mom's kitchen, a beach, vacation, whatever that time is. But then really put your mind there and start thinking about what smells were you smelling? What were you wearing? Where were you sitting? Look at all of the different senses that you have and really try to concentrate on that moment. And that will help you to try to interrupt your pain cycle. Another thing that's really easy to do, I call it 5-5-5, is go outside or go into a different room and find 5 things, 5 items, 5 colors, and 5 different shapes. Again, this is just to get your mind distracted from what's going on right now with your body. Reframing, trying not to catastrophize. Catastrophizing is believing that it is the worst, the situation is the worst it could possibly be. Saying something like, I hurt my back and it will never get better. Well, you don't know that for a fact. How about try, although my back hurts now, let me try some strategies and see if I can reduce my pain. You hear us people saying, this flare will never end. I will never be able to do, or my entire body hurts. Well, think about that. Does your entire body hurt? Truly? Do a quick body scan. Do your fingernails hurt? Do your ears hurt? Do your eyelashes hurt? If you can say no to any of these, then it's not your whole body and you are catastrophizing. We should also try to avoid should statements, thinking in terms of how things should, must, or ought to be. Saying things like, this injury should have never happened. Well, of course it shouldn't, but you're not gaining anything from that, and that's not going to help you. Reframing that and saying, I wish this never happened. I'm frustrated, but I'm ready to start focusing on what I can do now. The other thing we try to avoid is emotional reasoning, excuse me. Believing how you feel reflects how things really are. Just because you think it does not mean it's a fact. Your feelings are opinions, not facts. So just because you feel useless doesn't mean you are useless. You can say, I can't do everything that I used to be able to do, but there are things I'm learning how to do differently. That is more of a positive spin on things, and that's what reframing really tries to get you to do. As far as your position, try to change positions as often as you can, because we know that staying stagnant only can exacerbate our pain. If you can, try some gentle stretchings as well. When we are in a heightened state of pain, it may be hard to think logically. It is best to plan ahead and establish strategies that will help you persevere. When experiencing a pain flare, we want to interrupt your mind from thinking about your pain. There are so many methods of accomplishing this using these techniques to distract you while also calming your body and your nervous system. Remembering these devices while experiencing pain may be difficult, which is why every person should have, in case of fire, break glass box. Your in case of fire, break glass box is for emergencies only. It is to be used when it's just that, when your body is on fire. When you are in a horrible 10+ pain flare-up, you need to do something immediately, even if it's just to lower your pain level down to a 9 or an 8, just so you could breathe a little bit better and calm down. Everyone's box will look differently, but everybody should have one. You need to pack your box now before you are in a flare. If you wait until you're in a pain flare to start looking for items to help you, it's too late. You need those items ahead of time so that when you're in a flare-up, you can go and choose something to help alleviate something now. Your in case of fire break glass box is really just a box of distractions. Studies have shown that mental distractions can greatly reduce your pain. Distractions, it's very important you know that, do not erase your pain. The purpose of distraction is to help put the thoughts of your pain out of focus for a time being. We want to break that immediate cycle of overwhelming pain. When you want to start building your box, the first thing to do is create a list. What kinds of things do you think would go in your box? Remember, no two boxes will look the same. Everyone's symptoms, as do their coping strategies, look different. What helps one might not help another. I like listening to music when I'm in pain to calm down, but that may exacerbate someone else's pain. You also want to remember to include your activities that we just talked about in calming your nervous system. Then choose some items to place in your box or bag or corner, wherever you decide, that can help distract you. Items that can help redirect your brain to focus on a specific task. These are some possibilities. Bubbles. You might not realize why bubbles. Blowing bubbles helps slow down your breathing, gives you something to do, see, and feel. Crafts. Any project that can keep your hands and mind occupied. Studies have actually shown that adult coloring books like mandalas can actually be a therapeutic help to distract you from your pain, reduce anxiety, increase your self-esteem, and yield a calming sense. Concentration exercises. Now, this is really to keep your mind from thinking about your pain. It's to concentrate on other things. Any type of task that can occupy your mind. You want to really get yourself, try counting by 4s or 7s or 12s. I don't think I would get very far, but that's something you would do concentrating. Something that I actually do for myself is I play an alphabet game. Choose a song, animals, boys' names, food, whatever, and go through each letter of the alphabet, trying to put that letter to it. So Anne, Barbara, Carol, again, just something that you have to start thinking about. Puzzles and games help keep your mind engaged and distract from pain by redirecting your focus. Doing things like jigsaw puzzles, Sudoku, or crossword, word finds, all of those things take your mind thinking. Things to notice. Laughter is one of the first things I write there. It is extremely difficult to cry in pain when you are laughing hysterically. Well, keep that in mind. Maybe you have a favorite comedy movie or show that you can keep in the back of your head or have a video of. Do you have a particular stand-up comic that you like? Well, listen to his podcast or try viewing a show on TV. Inspirational quotes are very important to me. I like to read ones about perseverance and strength. And if you have personal mantras that are significant to you and your current situation, things like, I know this won't last forever, or I'm strong enough to combat this flare. So petting an animal has been shown to reduce your cortisol level, which is your stress hormone, which helps reduce tension and improves your mood. Pets also provide a wonderful, loving distraction from pain. And I know some of you are saying, but I don't have a pet. You can actually do this with just the stuffed animal. And they say that you should get the exact same results. Secret tricks. So everybody has their own little tricks. I will share mine. Whenever I am starting to get overwhelmed or stressed, or I feel my pain level starting to increase, I put a fireball candy in my mouth. Those hot cinnamon candies, I hate them, absolutely hate them. But when they're in my mouth, it kind of shocks my system. The only thing I can think about is that hot ball in my mouth. I can't even focus on my pain because I'm focused on when is it going to be out? When am I going to be done with it? Everyone has their own. I have a friend who put ice cube in their hands and would close their hand real tight until it was completely melted. Well, as you can guess, the only thing you could think about is that freezing cold. And you'll find whatever works for you. Other things you might want to consider, maybe a favorite snack or a drink, magazine, book, TENS unit, maybe some phone numbers of your close friends and family so you could speak to them, your medication and CBD type oils or lotions. A journal can help, and a weighted blanket or pillow. The weight of a blanket can actually help decrease your cortisol level, helping your muscles relax. It is a good idea, however, to let someone else know where your box is in case they should need to get it for you. The most important thing when you're in a pain flare is you have to think positively and practice kindness and self-compassion. Don't beat yourself up. You need to allow yourself, your body to recover and give your body whatever it needs at that moment. Focus on the things that you can control. Reassure yourself that flares do not last forever. They all have ending points. Remember, we said flare-ups are like tornadoes. They're wild, tumultuous, and wreak havoc, but all tornadoes, all of them, they fade away. So will your pain flare. You have been in this situation before, and you fought your way through it. You won that battle, and that day is now in your past. You can conquer this now, and as well, this day will be part of your history, because you are a fighter. When you reach that other side of your flare, commend yourself for getting through it. And once your flare-up is past, review your plan. What things in your box worked? What didn't? You may need to adjust your box from time to time. So we talked about what to do when you have a pain flare. Let's talk about how to try to avoid them. Things that help you reduce your chances for flare-up are managing stress, getting support, pacing, resting, and even making some dietary changes. I always think it's funny when you go to the doctor and the doctor says, reduce your stress or eliminate stress. Life is stressful. There is absolutely no way around it. And being a chronic pain patient just adds more. We know we cannot erase our stressors, but we can start to prepare for them. We can recognize and try to understand our stressors and then respond appropriately to lessen their effects on us, our bodies, and our pain level. Ask for help. Speak with a mental health specialist. Heightened stress levels increase pain. So try relaxation, meditation, talking, whatever you can do to reduce your stress level. Some other ideas: join a support group. Joining a support group helps you to know that you are not alone. You can speak to others that know exactly what you have been through. Something that's very challenging to do, but very important as a pain patient, is pacing. A lot of people believe that if they're having a good day, well, let's go out and do as much as we can. Well, if you go to the store and shopping and then the post office and then wherever else, you might suffer for the next couple of days because of that. We can't just push ourselves on the good days. We need to do something on our good days and our bad days. Keeping a daily or weekly to-do list can aid you in doing some of this daily pacing. Break down some of your tasks into chunks. Looking at your list and seeing that it's time to clean the kitchen may seem very overwhelming, especially if you're having a pain day. Maybe break that down. Maybe I'll clean the kitchen today. But if that's too overwhelming, how about I'll take care of the dishes and clean the counter? It could be in your former pre-injury life, you were able to clean the house in one day. Don't expect that to happen now. You can still get your house just as clean, just do it in smaller steps. Make sure you pause to rest. Ask for help. What's really also very important is that you are honest with yourself and others about your needs and limitations. Don't stop doing everything. There may be some times where you have to reduce your activity for a few days, but just keep moving and plan to gradually increase your previous levels of activity. It's helpful to journal. If you keep a pain journal, you can recognize the conditions of your day, your activity, and how it affects your pain level. Stay hydrated, and you might want to try an anti-inflammatory diet. Anti-inflammatory diets do just that. We're trying to calm the inflammation in your body. Adding things like spinach and kale and broccoli, those are all anti-inflammatory foods. Fruits like blueberries, actually almost all berries, cherries, the darker the better, are great for you. Walnuts and almonds are perfect anti-inflammatory foods. An easy way to start with anti-inflammatory is adding certain spices. Spices that have the properties of anti-inflammatory markers are garlic, turmeric, ginger, and cinnamon. Green tea can also help, and olive oil. Olive oil, they say to try to get 1 tablespoon of olive oil in, whether it's through your cooking or salad dressing, and that helps a lot. And for those of you, this might be a treat. What a great anti-inflammatory food is: dark chocolate. Just make sure you don't overdo it on that one. Please try, if you can, to avoid the foods that are inflammatory, such as dairy products, processed food, sugar, gluten, MSG, caffeine. I know you're thinking all the good stuff, but you will find that it does make a difference. I said before about joining a support group. I truly believe it's very important for anybody in pain and their caregivers to be in a support group. You are all welcome to join the Fight the Flame support group. We meet on the second Saturday of every month from 1 to 3 Eastern via Zoom. However, if that day does not work for you, all you need to do is contact RSDSA, and they have a list of groups. Generally, most groups are not meeting in person anymore, so you could pick your group based on what day. If you're free Tuesday night, well, look for a group. It could be in Seattle, it could be in New York, but just get to a group to help. Upcoming Fight the Flame events. As Jim mentioned, next month we are hosting a conference, Learning to Thrive with CRPS. We are bringing in 7 speakers to help us with some ways and techniques to help us learn with our pain. And then in September, I'm very happy to say, we are having our 10th annual Fight the Flame 5K and 1K family roll and stroll. I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to chat with you, and I want to wish everybody a low pain day.
Absolutely amazing. Thank you so much, Beth. There are so many people in the comments who are loving all of your tips. We are getting requests for your slides. So thank you for sharing all of this with us. Definitely very
Thank
helpful.
you.
I think she won an Oscar, Alexis.
Yes.
Well, my husband always said I'm a drama queen, so.
Tell Steve hello.
But we are not done yet. So as I have been putting in the chat and I mentioned earlier, we are definitely going to take your questions, about managing pain flares and the science and psychology behind them. So please continue to leave your questions in the chat. And we already have a few, so we will go ahead and kick it off. But like I said, leave them in the chat, or if you don't want to leave them publicly in the chat, send them to us in a message and I can read them that way. So I'm going to start with the first question. How does someone find a counselor to help them through everything that they're dealing with CRPS?
I'll take that one since I'm a counselor that is comfortable with CRPS. Yeah, this can be challenging. Now, Beth, let me add to this. It was like you were channeling pain psychologists all across the country with what you shared with us. So that information is wonderful. Backed in science is something we would promote as clinicians as well. So thank you for sharing that in such a lovely way. But sometimes we go through those rough patches early in diagnosis, before we kind of get everything set, before we establish our baseline, during flares, during stressful times in our lives. And so it can be helpful to reach out and have, in addition to your support group and peer support, have some professional counseling as well. Kind of that objective, safe space to share what you're going through and get some feedback on that. Not gonna lie, now I'm in Canada now, but both in the US and Canada, there's a shortage of mental health workers. I can imagine many of you who have tried to find one finds long waiting lists, or people aren't taking new clients. So it is really a shame, and it leaves people in the dark with that. So a couple ways I can suggest. If you're looking for somebody, you can, and I think Beth, you mentioned this too, that this is something you recommend, go on Psychology Today. I think that's the easiest way to figure out who's in your area. All right. There's a couple methods here. So sometimes, depending on how insurance covers it, if you're in the States, you can ask your insurance provider first, give me a list of who you cover, right? Because you might find this awesome therapist who's on Psychology Today, but it's not covered by your insurance. So I would say ask, because they might not cover psychology. They might cover licensed clinical social workers or other types of counselors, which is awesome. Find out who they are, then look them up. See, are they on Psychology Today? Look at their profile, and see what they might be specializing in. There's usually a list on the right-hand side of a Psychology Today profile that will say health issues, pain, depression, anxiety. So you can see if that person would match up with your needs. I will offer, I don't know that you necessarily have to find somebody super trained in CRPS. Now, it might be comforting to have someone who already is understanding of the special issues surrounding the pain condition, but a good therapist worth their salt is going to research that. They're going to learn, they're going to listen to you, because it's really about your own personal experience with the pain, right? Now, they don't have to know everything about it, but they will then go do their research. That's how I learned, for sure. I didn't know when I started. So just look for somebody who has some health or pain background. And then in the meantime, if there's a list or a waiting list, I've become aware of a fairly recent app development, like a phone app called Curable. Interesting title, right? Thinking about a cure versus management. But it is a really lovely chronic pain specific app that is rooted in cognitive behavioral therapy. So a lot of the stuff that Beth mentioned, that reframing those negative thoughts, choosing healthier behaviors, using guided meditations, that's all in this app that can kind of support you through these modules. So there's not exactly that one-to-one personalization, but it gets you there. It gets you some of that training under the scientific models that are proven to work with chronic pain and CRPS while you're waiting for a one-to-one therapist. So that's a long-winded answer, but I hope that's specific enough to help some people.
No, that's great. I just added the links to Curable and Psychology Today into the chat. Beth, I also did add the links to your upcoming events in the chat as well. We actually already have a question about your upcoming conference, Beth. Someone did ask, will the North Carolina conference be available live, online, or will it be recorded, or do people have to attend in person?
Well, of course, we would like people to come in person. It is definitely going to be recorded, and we just found out that we are going to be able to stream that live stream. You'll just have to register to stream it.
Okay. And of course, we will share more information about that as we get it. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to hop into another question. We have a good number of questions going, so I'm excited now. Someone asked, how do you balance between being realistic and being overly positive? A little bit more context, I believe things will continue to be bad and I'll never live a normal life. Everyone thinks I'll get better. There's got to be some common ground there.
Beth, do you want me to start? And then I would love to hear your ideas about that too. I tend to be a positive person and I'm a psychologist, but positive psychology and just do it, the power of positive thinking and everything's going to be perfect, it doesn't always wash. So Beth, you really alluded to the fact that we have to hold space for the grief and the losses and the mood changes that come along with this, as well as holding space for some optimism that this can get better, right? So I tend to counsel clients to keep almost like divide their head into two, where we have this, this is going to get better, that it can, right? That the trajectory is often that it can. And I'm going to work hard to get there, and I'm going to learn about this, and I'm going to use my skills to manage. And then also keep that realistic space of, and this is what I'm dealing with right now. It might not be better yet. What you mentioned, Beth, what can I control in the moment, right? So kind of focusing on that realism of this is rough and this has been a tough journey, and I hold space for that grief and that anger and that anxiety, but also having the hope that over time and with more knowledge and more support, it can get better. So there's room to hold both things is what I would say with that. What are your thoughts on that, Beth? How have you had that journey?
It is said that our video has ended, just so you know.
Oh.
Sorry about that. I'm still seeing us over on Facebook, so I think we're still good.
Okay. Well, being a pain patient for 27 years, I will tell you, I've had plenty of times where I just thought my flare was just going to get me and that would be it. I had one recently and I was just crying on the couch and I kept trying, on my phone, I was trying to play Sudoku. I had a celebrity game show on, trying to laugh at what they were doing. But then I just kept remembering, okay, I had this before. I've had this before. This is terrible, but I am going to get through this. And that's where I came up with that mantra that, you've been through this before, you survived that day's in your past. Because I try to tell myself that all the time, that I'm a fighter, that I'll be able to conquer this. Even as I'm crying, I'm trying to tell myself these things. And it does help because I do know that it is going to end. When, I don't know, but I know that there is going to be an end. And that's what helps me. But generally, I try to stay as positive as I possibly can.
Do you ever see those movies where like a future self videotapes a recording for their previous self, like, or, something like that, or somebody who, they sort of give a message to themselves. It's almost like we need to do that. And that comes with that preparation, like you mentioned, Beth. When we're feeling fairly decent, when we're feeling a little confident, write your plan down, write your encouragement, videotape a little something on your phone, like, girl, you can do this, whatever it is, so that when you're having those tougher times, you can look at that sheet or you can play that video and like, oh, that advice is coming from me. And giving yourself your own encouragement to stay optimistic.
I love that idea.
That is a great idea. I think we can all definitely use that. All righty. So a couple more questions that we are getting. Here's one. I started occupational therapy, but as I'm in an acute phase, they said they can't do much. How long do these acute phases last? Can I possibly expect to go back to work?
I could
You're in
start.
acute phase with CRPS. That's another,
Yeah,
I'll
so-
add that question in.
Yeah, to be honest, the honest answer is, I don't know. And no one can tell you. And if someone can tell you that you'll be better in a year and you'll go back to work, they're lying to you. I'm sorry, but you just have to deal and be mindful of where you are at this moment. Most therapists would want to work with you, I should think. So you might want to talk to your therapist a little bit more about that. And if not, possibly seek out some other help. It's RSDSA actually put out a CD a long time ago for occupational physical therapists because they didn't know much about it, to help them aid people with CRPS. They're learning just like we're learning and the rest of the medical community is learning. But as to when you can go back to work, yes, it is absolutely possible you can. When? I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's fair, Beth. I mean, and that gives that hope, but also again that realism of we're not quite sure. As you know, Beth, and I'm sure everyone who's been dealing with this, that newish diagnosis just can be really overwhelming, and going online and learning about it can really be a lot. And there is a variable time to get that baseline under control, to find your right pain management team, to find your right rhythm and energy level and routine and all that. It can take a while to get that set. And that might be what that occupational therapist is hoping for, waiting for that baseline, right? To know then, okay, how do we test your function? If you test and push through too early, that can be really rough. You just might not be ready yet, right? But once we find that baseline, then it's a little easier to test those limits and progress the function back to work. I just want to share one little thing, a little hope here. So the program I work in is about injured workers. And one of our main goals is to get people back to work. Clearly, as clinicians, we want to improve the whole quality of life, right? Leisure, family, and work. But it's funded by a workers' compensation system. And so that is a primary goal. So we see a good percentage of CRPS clients. We see a good percentage of those go back. The timeline is variable for sure. I want to celebrate a success we had recently. We're just about 6 weeks ago, we had a client start a CRPS in the foot, walking on the side of the foot tentatively, could not put the foot down, was wearing slide shoes, couldn't tolerate the shoe around. And when she embraced pretty much everything what Beth was talking about, she embraced that idea of acceptance of the symptoms, of testing her limits, of engaging in meaningful activities rather than focusing on the pain, right? Setting the small goals, trusting that pain does not mean damage, right? And more pain does not mean more damage. She trusted that. This is 6 weeks in. She is now wearing closed shoes, practically a normal gait, and she's ready to progress to desensitizing to steel-toed boots to get back to her work in a warehouse. Shocking. Now that's on the side of the spectrum that's pretty amazing. But I will credit her 100% because she embraced all of those things and met the pain with acceptance and bravery and controlling what she could control rather than saying, I'm stuck here, I'm victimized. So I give her so much credit. And I shared that so that you, whoever asked that question, can keep that hope, right? Honor the depression, honor the grief, but do the work, focus on what you can control, get your team assembled, and it's definitely possible to get back to your life. Yeah. Or construct a new life, right? That might look different than the one you had, but still is very meaningful and full.
Alexis, I'd like to ask Beth a question. So Beth, when people in your support group, do they ever go to the emergency department, and what advice do you have for them?
So we do have that. We talk about that a lot. And unfortunately, it's never happened to me, but it has happened to people in their support in my group that they'll go to the emergency, they're in major flare up, and sometimes they're treated, unfortunately, like drug seekers. What I have told people, what I've suggested is that if you are in major flare up and you do need some medical intervention, when you go to the hospital, tell them you need pain intervention, not I need medication, I need drugs, but that you need some pain intervention, some, what's the other term I use? There's that brain fog coming, but you want to make sure that they understand. I also strongly believe that you have a list for them of what CRPS is, whether it's from RSDSA, they have a little card, the telltale card, or if you have your own, or whatever it is, because educating the people in the emergency department is a huge undertaking. And unfortunately, anytime I've been to the emergency room for a family member or whatnot, I ask everyone there. It is so rare that I have ever heard of anyone knowing what CRPS. Not a single ambulance driver I've ever come across knows what it is. So having that information for them, even if it's just a couple little sentences so they can see what it is and why you're having a flare up and what you can do. Going in and saying, I need medication, I need, to lower, that may look more like drug seeking. And I know you're not, but you just have to try to put yourself out differently.
Thanks.
That's the advice I could give for that.
So somewhat of a follow-up to the previous question. Any recommendations for dealing with work or a boss when experiencing pain flare-ups? So this is someone who has gone back to work and just is trying to, get through each day. How do you work with a boss that may not understand?
Leanne, do you want to answer? You want me to?
Why don't you start and then I'll follow up with that. Yeah.
So, first of all, we do have a couple good things going for us, is that CRPS is recognized by our federal government or whatever. It is a legal disability, if I hope that makes sense, but it is listed as a disability. And we do have, the Disability Act where people have to be treated fairly and with respect. That being said, you're right. A boss does not have to give you off as many days as you may need. However, if you go in and explain, sit down, say, I need some time with you. Can you schedule some time? Again, bring some information about CRPS. Go to RSD, call, ask me. We have printed material. Bring that to your boss and say, I just want you to understand what I'm going through. I can definitely do this job, but please know I might not be able to come in physically if I'm having a huge flare up, but I will make up my work. Assure them that you will get the work done. It just might be on a different timetable, or maybe he'll have to work from home that day or work on half days, something to the effect of that. And I would hope that a boss who cares about his employer and wants his work done appropriately, will work with you. But I wouldn't just spring it on them and say, I'm not feeling well, I can't come in today. I think I would have a sit down with them, explain to them CRPS, bring some written material, and see if you guys can work out something.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add, Beth. I think that's great. I mean, you're just encouraging like really good communication. It's going to depend on your relationship with your boss and how much you want to divulge, right? But just that assertive, honest communication. You're still a hard worker. You still want to do a good job. That hasn't changed. Your values haven't changed. It's just how you can get that work done. We might need a little creativity here, might need a little give and take so you can be the best worker for them that you can be. So I like that encouragement is really good. Educate and communicate. Yeah.
I would like to mention an organization called Job Accommodations Network, jan.org. And they could talk to you about reasonable accommodations and what are your rights under the Americans with Disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
Really know your rights.
Good. That's good.
Perfect. I think I just found them, askjan.org. Is that correct, Jen?
It could be, it's jan.org. Yes.
All right, perfect. I'm gonna drop that in the chat. So many different resources. And speaking of resources, we just had someone ask, how do we get the written materials for friends and family to understand what's happening with me? We have tons of resources on the RSDSA website. We can definitely send you specific ones. Just, of course, send us an email, info@rsds.org. And of course, as you may have heard, we have a new website that we are hoping to get launched in the next couple of months. And so I'm very excited about it. And we will, of course, still have great resources there. So more to come with that. I just want to make sure that I put that out there before we ended for the evening, because we do have a couple more questions that I want to make sure we get through. Yes.
This is also why I feel a support group is very important. Like I just had last month or 2 months ago, a group for caregivers or for family members. It is important. They don't understand. How can we expect someone to understand if they've never heard of this? You know, they can't understand how you can walk 5 feet today and tomorrow you can walk 100, in 100, I don't know. Do you know what I'm saying? I think it's really important that you have some sort of meeting for caregivers, start a group for caregivers. And there are plenty of caregiver groups out there, plenty of them. I have a huge list if anyone wants, but I think it's really important that caregivers get the support they need as well.
And a little self-plug, my last Facebook Live was about caregiver support.
Fabulous one. Yes. Thank you.
Yes, definitely amazing. And of course, we do have caregiver resources on the RSDSA website as well. And those are not going anywhere when we switch over to the new site. All right. So yeah, we do have a couple minutes left. Like I said, I think we have 2 more questions and then we will end for the evening. Here's a good one. They're all good, but here's a good one. What do you do when the pain flare-up is absolutely not going away? It's 10 out of 10 for days and you're exhausted from lack of sleep. And then you go on, you end up in the ER, they do nothing to help you. Then what? Can you refuse to leave the hospital until they help you? Kind of a double 2 questions there.
I can't answer that legally. I don't know that. I mean, I know that with my flare-ups, a lot of times I get migraines, and I had one that just kept going and going and going along with the pain. I personally do not go to the hospital because for me, I don't take pain medication. So I don't know what they were going to do for me. For me, I really just go through my entire list of things to do. And I just keep trying and trying and trying, because again, I know you feel like it's not going to end. It has to. It will. I promise it will. Like I said, it can last for weeks, unfortunately. I hope it doesn't, and then I would talk, when you feel better, I would talk to your pain management doctor and say, what are some new things we can try? If this isn't working, what else can I try? Nowadays, they do have a lot of different treatments. Not all work for everybody. You can look also to alternative medication too, whether it's reflexology or craniosacral massage. And now LDN's really helping a lot of people. And there's injections. There's so many things that people can try now that I suggest working with your pain management doctor and see if they can help you come up with something else.
Yeah, I empathize with that because it is so frightening, right? Because there isn't a crystal ball to say, oh, just get by 3 more days and it's going to be okay. You just don't know. And like you mentioned, like you're getting more and more exhausted from lack of sleep from it, and it just can really spiral. So yeah, I definitely agree. I think the time to go in for emergency care or really worrying that something new is happening is if you're having new symptoms, brand new location, right? That tends to mean maybe something new is going on. We need maybe emergent care. If it's a flare of your existing symptoms, that's something where I would encourage with Beth, go through your box, in case of, flare, break glass thing. And then, when you're done with it, go through it again. And yes, that's frustrating. Quality of life dips a bit when you're going, well, not a bit, probably a lot when you're going through the flare. Let the people around you know you're struggling, get that extra support, and be patient and compassionate to yourself with it. Having the fear about it, adding on the anger, adding on the fear of it, it makes it worse, right? What we resist persists and grows stronger. The more we fight it, the stronger it can dig in. So if you can just say, okay, here's what I'm in, let me strap in, this is where we're at right now, and you kind of soften around it a little bit, it might ease a little quicker.
All right, so our last question, I think there's another question just came in, but they kind of align, so I'm going to kind of put them together. Someone asked, how do you determine if you need physical therapy? And then there's another question that says, my occupational therapist wants me to have a pain level of at least 5 during therapy. It makes me feel like I'm failing / not trying hard enough if I don't want to push myself to be in a lot more pain. Thoughts on dealing with pain in occupational therapy?
Ooh. I will take that one just at first, Beth. We both had that same reaction, like what?
Yeah.
So I work on my team with a physical therapist and occupational therapist. So our team is psych, PT, OT, and medical pharmacy. I would say everyone probably could use some physiotherapy at some point, whether it is, and there's different types of physio, right? So we tend to think about rehab physio, like we're gonna get strength and we're gonna get stamina and we're gonna do weights and we're gonna do cardio and we're gonna get stronger. That's fine for some, but I think the quality physiotherapy for CRPS specifically is more about reconnecting brain and body part, right? How many of you, let's say if you have it in your arm or hand or your leg, you want that part away from you. We reject the part that doesn't feel good. And so good trained pain physios will help you reintegrate that part and let the brain start connecting again. So there's techniques like desensitization or something called graded motor imagery, where you're visualizing that part moving well and moving with success. Just like an athlete would imagine, making a basket like thousands of times before they even shoot the basket. You are imagining that part moving successfully and in a healthy way before you even move it. So there's some really good physio out there that is specific even for CRPS, mirror box therapy, a lot of good stuff with that. And Beth, you can follow up with the PT, but I do want to mention, I think that's a tall order. I would like all of you to right now have a 2 out of 10 pain. Go. Like what? Who can say that? That is not under our control, right? So I would ask that OT what they mean by that. Like you're aiming to push from a 3 to a 5 and 5 is okay? Or are they wanting you to get it down from where you are to a 5? I'm not quite sure what that is, but that's a tall order just to like pick a number and go for it. Would you agree with that?
We have some wonderful PTs who have been filmed. And if you email the info@rsds.org, one was fabulous, Jonathan Bass, his whole topic was, should PT hurt? And
yeah,
we could send that to you. There's about 6 of them. That's great. And there's a really good video on graded motor imaging and mirror box therapy too. So we're here to help.
Yeah, we definitely have a lot of those great videos, like Jim just said, on our Facebook page from previous lives. And then we also have those videos on our YouTube channel as well. So definitely check that out. there's years worth of resources there. Oh, yeah. But I think we are at time. We have answered the questions that we have in the chat. So I just wanted to take a moment to thank our guests. Thank you, Dr. Cianfrini, for coming back. And of course, thank you, Beth. Beth is also a sponsor of In Reform, our monthly newsletter for the month of February and for the month of March. So In Reform will go out within the next week before the month is over. Someone did just comment in the chat saying that they love our newsletters, and I just definitely want to make sure that we thanked Beth and Fight the Flame for sponsoring In Reform. We definitely appreciate it. And of course, the information that Beth shared earlier in her presentation about her upcoming events, we will also include in Reform, and they've also been put into the chat here on Facebook, and I will add them to the comments on YouTube once I get this video uploaded. So once again, everyone, thank you for joining us. As always, we will have this video pinned to the top of our Facebook timeline for easy access until our next Facebook Live. And like I just mentioned, we will also add it to our YouTube channel. Speaking of our next Facebook Live, we will have Dr. Bethany Rains on Tuesday, April 4th. She will join us to discuss the neuroscience of brain-based pain therapies. So we are definitely excited to have her for our early April Facebook Live. And of course, just keep an eye out on our website, our social channels, and our newsletter for future dates, because we already have live scheduled all the way through May. So once again, if you have any questions for us, if you need a support group, if you're looking for a new physician, or if you want to tell your story on the RSDSA blog, please send us an email at info@rsds.org. All righty, and everyone have a great evening.
Thank you.
Bye.